We are live.
And
Welcome.
we're live.
Yeah. You know what? I put this Scruffy City Aquatics live stream logo right behind where the StreamYard logo goes. That's something I need to think about next time.
I just got the notification on YouTube, so
All right.
should
I'm
be
glad to
going
hear
out
that
to
they're doing that.
everybody. Yeah, that's coming in at a pretty good time.
Welcome to Scruffy City Aquatics live stream. This week will be a part 2 of our How to Fert a Tank series. We're expecting this to probably be 3 episodes. So for those of you who are already in the chat, welcome. And then for those of you who are on the replay, thank you. Thank you for checking out this video, this live stream, and joining us for this conversation. I know I enjoy checking out the live streams while I'm working around on my tank and doing stuff around the house or even sometimes at work. So that's a lot of fun. Let me bring us up. There we are. All right, man. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Looks like we got Red Laser in the chat, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and I
Thanks to
think
everybody on the replay crew for watching this video. We got keeping aquatics, as Mitch was trying to say, and I kept interrupting him.
We'll get the timing down one of these days. Keeping Aquatics was here early because I accidentally posted the live stream at the wrong time. When I put it in, it was set for 7:25 Eastern. That makes no sense whatsoever why I would set it at 7:25 Eastern, but that's what it was. And they were here. And when I checked in, I was like, "Oh wait, somebody's already here." And I saw up on the top corner that it was showtime. I was like, "No, it's not. It's not showtime. That's not right." Hey,
Us
I
with
just
the
got the
times and
notification.
time zone, man. We'll get it down one day.
Yeah,
Regina
Zen Ginger is
Phalanges
here.
and Zen Ginger says
Oh,
they'll be
good.
back in a few. Shout out to the Zen Ginger, is one of our wonderful mods, as always. Thanks for keeping everything running smoothly. We appreciate it. You do the things that we don't know how to
Have
do.
have no idea how to do them. That's right. Oh man, so today's been a crazy one trying to get ready for a live stream and get a bunch of other stuff done and just be here.
Yeah, looks like Dave with Basement Aquatics was a little late. Not only a couple minutes, but he was baking cookies. Are you gonna share some?
Oh, Dave, we'll let it pass. Thanks for making it out. Oh, YouTube's hitting me with all kinds of welcome to the new YouTube live control room. Is while I'm live really the best time for this to happen? We'll do that at a later date.
But as Mitch was saying, this is the second part to our fertilization series. So pretty excited. We had some great conversations on the last stream, and this is really a topic we felt like we needed to delve further into. And just, fertilization is a massive topic, lots of different opinions, lots of different methods. So we just want to sort of give our own experiences and, a little disclaimer. Um, Mitch and I have talked about we are not experts. We don't want to represent ourselves as knowing, you know, all of this information comes from our own reading and experiences. So we always recommend to do your own research, figure out what works for you.
Yes, absolutely. We're not experts. Not trying to tell you that I am. We're just going to talk about our experiences, and also there was a few things that in our research we come across that was interesting. We thought we'd talk about that as well. I hope everything is okay with the live stream. When I went into the YouTube studio, because sometimes the chat does a little bit better over there, it asked if I wanted to start a live stream, and I was like, "Oh no, that's a bad thing." Because I'm on a live stream. So I checked on my phone and looks like we're good. Looks like we're live. Hopefully everything works out and this is there for the replay. If not, we'll just, we'll redo it. We'll just record it later. So we're talking about the cookies over in the chat and it's getting all of our attention. trying to find out what kind of cookies are happening over there at Basement Aquatics.
I'm a big fan of the chocolate chip myself. Regina Flange says the video is super clear tonight. That's great. We
Awesome. It'll
are
drop here
always
soon.
tweaking stuff and trying to get our setups better, pretty much. I'm in a different spot tonight, trying out a different place.
It is very crisp.
In front of the tanks, so hopefully that helps a bit.
Yeah, the tanks for me are in a high traffic area, and with everyone trying to get ready for school the next day, it's not a good place for me to be. I'm over here off to the side trying to do my own thing for a little bit.
Mitch is hiding in the corner.
Close to it. It's close to it. One of these days, that shed out there, studio.
It's got to happen.
Fun project.
Fish room, studio, game room.
Yeah. I need something.
Happen.
Yep. A lot of work, though. It's a lot of work. We'll get there one of these days. Oh, speaking of which, getting there one of these days, I was talking about the 500 subscribers goal in order to get the community tab. Well, YouTube's handing out the community tab to newer channels. And I know a number of channels that have received it, and I have not. I'm very, very disappointed that I still don't have it. I'm talking like 2 or 3 weeks people have been getting it. I did check and confirm that I have met all the requirements in order to get it, but they just haven't gotten to me yet. I don't know. Maybe it's alphabetical, and I'm toward the end there.
Coming soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, especially on days like when we couldn't live stream not long ago. I'd just be able to post it in the community tab. And also we can do some polls and stuff. I know we've talked about doing various shows, various live streams, and I'd like to bounce some of the ideas off of people. I think that'd be a lot of fun. This week, we had actually talked about doing something Halloween related. And then we started on Fert's last week and realized, we need to push this out a couple of more episodes, and totally forgot that we were ever going to do anything Halloween related. It would have been so fun. Y'all would have enjoyed it. It would have been
It would have been a good one. I guess what Halloween is next weekend, so we'll miss it. It'll be November. Monday. It's next Monday. So Tuesday, I guess, will be, maybe we could squeeze in a Halloween episode. We'll see. I don't know. This fertilization series is fairly expansive just because it is such a massive topic. There's so many different, nuances that we will not even be able to begin to touch on in 10 episodes, even if we went that far, which we are not, for those of you who may be getting bored of Ferts. Keeping Aquatics says this is great timing, adding more plants and scaping my tanks in the next couple weeks. That's awesome. I am always adding more plants and scaping.
Yeah. Regina Phalanges, I haven't heard yet. That's bad, right? That's bad of me. Yeah, I'll have to ask. If I had a community tab, I could tell you then. Maybe we'll talk about it on the next one. They're like me. They're last minute.
The club really needs to do a Halloween meeting where we all dress up as our favorite fish or aquarium element. I know at a store I used to work at, they would do something similar, and it was always really funny. You had people dressed up as anemones, just all sorts of crazy stuff.
That would be fun. I think we'll do, and we're still working on what we're actually going to do, but December marks, it's not the 1 year. January will be the anniversary of the club, but December is, marks the 12th meeting, or the 12th month of us meeting, however you want to word it. I have no idea what I'm trying to say, but we're planning on doing something, and I think something, related to the holidays would be a lot of fun. Like, do some kind of, usually everybody brings stuff and it goes on a table, and then we get tickets and you go up and you take something off the table, and that's how we just kind of share and promote the hobby amongst ourselves. and you get to go pick something. Maybe we do like a mean Santa type thing, right? Where you go up and then the next person can take your item if they want to. Yeah, the white elephant. Yeah. So maybe that would be something that we do at the last meeting of the year. Are you going to make that one?
I am planning on it. So I hope to be there.
Not
If
sponsored.
with my luck, if we do the dirty Santa or the white elephant, I'd probably end up with duckweed. So
I'm bringing duckweed. That was the plan. Like, yeah, but I'm going to bring it's not going to be duckweed. It's going to be a box full of a bag of duckweed.
oh my god, a duckweed instead of a glitter bomb. You know how they have those
Yeah,
packages you
duckweed.
open? A duckweed bomb.
I think
Somebody
that was
gets in their
brought up in one of our live streams one time.
someone gets in, their fish room with their 100 tanks and
Oh,
whew,
oh
I
man,
wouldn't
that's
wish
scary. That's Halloween talk right there.
I wouldn't wish that on like anyone ever.
No,
No one.
no, I did some tank maintenance this weekend. This week has been crazy. We're in like birthday holiday
Mhm.
mode. Like it all falls together for us. So once we get into October, it's just like nonstop, and it's hard
Yeah.
to keep up. And then add the kids doing extracurricular activities to that too, and it just adds to it. But anyway, completely forgot where I was going with that. That's the kind
Maintenance.
of week I'm having. Yeah, so
It's
I did do some maintenance, and I pulled out handfuls and handfuls of duckweed.
mm,
I need some closer friends with goldfish. All of my goldfish friends are too far away.
yeah, I've got some duckweed in my sump right now. Luckily it's localized there
Yeah,
and trapped in one
sure it is.
compartment.
Sure it
Um,
is.
but yeah, I've been doing maintenance has been such a struggle with as busy as things have been, just trying to get basically right now I'm doing my water changes and that's all I'm getting in.
Yeah. Well, and I had gone more than 2 weeks without a water change in the 75. The 25 with all the guppies and the Corys got water changes because that was pretty quick. But the 75 takes a little more time. And also, when I do it, if I'm going to do it, I might as well clean some, move
Yeah,
some stuff around. And I need to service the canister filter. And
that's one thing I've been putting off.
yes. Well, my UV light went out, which surprisingly, I've had this. It's a Sun canister filter, and I really only got it to polish the water. That was the whole purpose of getting
Mhm.
it. It was cheap, and I could put floss in it and polish the water. It has a UV light in it, so it's like the 303B, I think is the number. Uh,
Yeah, Sun makes a good product for the
that UV
price.
light lasted a long time, and I ran it a lot.
Hmm.
I was impressed. So I got a new one. I got to crack it open. Well, hopefully not crack it. I got to open it and put the new UV light in and clean it. I'm sure it's nasty. It's probably about to pop. I see Jimmy P's here.
Yeah.
Glad that you're here to
Welcome.
listen.
Yes, thanks for joining as always. Good to have you here.
I was going to back up. Regina Flange says, anyone use Fritz Expel P? My discus did not like it. They're okay now. Did a massive water change and added carbon to remove the rest. I can put this on the screen. I was freaked out by their behavior and look. I've not used Expel P specifically, but I have used, what is that? Levamisol? I don't
I'm
even know if
looking
that's
it
a
up
thing.
because I don't know what First has some different namings. Let's see. It's for parasitic diseases,
Yeah.
nematodes, roundworms, and hookworms. Let's see here. I'm trying to figure out the ingredients in it.
Yeah.
And of course, I cannot.
Expel active ingredient. If I could type. Yeah, it's levamisol. That's what I thought it was. I've used it before on live bears. Greg Sage recommends it. That's who I bought it from. So I did not buy Fritz's version. What are they doing? Of course, I don't have discus either, and I know they're supposed to be, real. Don't look at them wrong. Now I know that's not true, but that's how people on the internet talk.
It really depends on where you get your discus from, because
Yeah,
tank bred discus, which most people should have, I don't know
Hmm.
who can afford wild caught discus.
Yeah.
Uh, but tank bred are generally a little bit hardier than what people, talk about on the, forums and everything. So, I
Yeah.
mean, fluconazole is if am correct, it's an antifungal.
Love Amisol.
Love Amisol.
Love Amisol.
Okay, I'm looking up
Yeah.
fluconazole.
Well, it's just that southern thing. You've been in Nashville too long. Well, Nashville's not southern, right? I was
I
going while
don't
you're
have
looking that up.
experience. I don't have experience with that, but just I mean, discus are one of the more sensitive types of fish. So
Yeah.
any it's really hard to tell. You could have that ingredient could have interacted with something unknown in your tank. There's just way too many unknowns with something like that. So whenever I dose anything, I typically underdose.
Yeah.
Just more so out of a cautionary measure, especially with some more sensitive species.
Yeah.
Just because I'm real wary using medications.
Regina Flange says they
It looks like we lost Mitch or me. Hopefully, someone can let us know. But Regina Flange says they turned dark, hid, and stopped eating when normally they follow me, eat out of my hands. Just one was punky. Punky. I'm not sure what you mean by punky. Um, but so you treated. So yeah, discus will turn a darker color when they are stressed. So that could be just a response reaction to what is added in the water. Maybe someone can chime in, and if they've got some more experience with discus, that's something neither Mitch nor I have kept. So if anyone in there in the chat has more experience keeping discus, maybe you could chime in and help Regina out with that. And it does look like we have lost Mitch. So unfortunately, Mitch is still dealing with some internet issues. Hopefully that will be resolved at some point. Dave I'm stuck with this comment up here because I don't have control over that. So um, Dave from Basement Aquatic says he's done both tank and wild. If you buy retail tank bred, it's a risk. Buy from a reputable breeder and bite the financial bullet. Yeah, they are. That's one thing that caught. I don't have a tank large enough, and also they're really um, sensitive. For my liking. And Mitch is back.
Comcast. I tell you, they don't know. They don't know what's going on.
Oh, we've got Chattanooga Ed. Thanks for joining us.
What's up,
Always
Ed?
good. Always good to have that in the chat.
Glad that you made it. Been a little while.
Glad that Mitch made it back.
Yeah, me too. Not been a while since you've been around. Been a while since I've gotten to talk with Ed. Hopefully, I get to see you on the 5th. Not Tanner. I get to see you on the 5th, not Tanner.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, the East Tennessee Aquatic Association and the Music City Club have our meetings on the same day for November
You
because of
know,
a scheduling conflict with the UT game.
yeah, we
So,
tried. We reached out and they were like, it's just too late for us to change
yeah.
it. The
So,
next Nashville meeting, the Music City Aquarium Society, is November 5th.
November 5th at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Central, same
Oh, you know what?
location.
You could stop by there, say hi to everybody, then drive to Knoxville and make it to the 4
Ah.
p.m. meeting that we will have. So,
See, but
Ed, they're on the same
I
day.
lose that hour.
Oh, that's true.
So I would, even if I left at 2, I'd be there by 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, 6 actually because losing the hour.
Right.
But
So,
yeah,
Ray
so Ed,
Aquatics is here.
oh yes, Ray Aquatics. But Ed, the meeting is November 5th at 2 p.m. Central, same location. Sarah Walker is actually going to be talking about native Florida killifish and
Ooh.
collecting them. So it should be a pretty cool meeting. I'm excited for it. Killifish are not something I've experienced with. I actually got some eggs from Sarah at the last meeting and had an unfortunate loss of those fry. I
Uh-oh.
got about 15 to hatch and I had to leave for the weekend, did a water change, all that jazz to them, fed them, may have overfed them. Also, the air stone somehow fell out of the
Oh
tub.
no.
So I came back to just a mess. But it's okay.
Ed, we know which one you should go to. You don't need to ask. I know you're being polite.
It is the same. It's about the same. No, chat or Knoxville's closer to chat, but
Yeah.
the quality of the Nashville meetings. God,
Well,
I'm just
so the
messing with
big question
Mitch.
is, are you keeping Killies or do you need DIY advice? Because we'll have DIY advice. No, I hate that they're the same day. We did have to do it because
Yeah.
we meet downtown, and when UT when UT plays at Neyland, the entire downtown becomes parking lot for the UT game. And so the place that we meet at, their parking lot is used for that. They make a little bit of revenue from it. So they were like, sorry, there's no way. So we planned this one to be off, and that was before we knew you guys were going to be meeting the first week. And so yeah, it's just how it's going to be this November. Hopefully December or January, I'll make it out to Nashville, and
Yes, that
I'm
would be
hoping to make it to
great.
one of those. Kane is here.
Sorry.
I don't know if I said that. Keeper Kane is here.
Welcome, Kane. Thank you for joining us. I've got to grab something real quick and I'll be back.
I saw you hop up like you were going somewhere. Let's see. Let me play around here. All right. Yeah. So while I think that's enough chit chat, I think we're caught up. So we can get ready for the talking about fertilizer in the aquarium. If you're
Yes,
ready for that.
I am ready.
Right.
So, a little bit of, carryover from the last episode on fertilizing. We want to, we talked about it was basically an introduction to fertilization, why you would fertilize, the benefits of fertilization, what really do you have to do, and how you can fertilize. So from that, we had a couple terms that we were using, and several of those, just so because we're going to be using them throughout this episode too, are macro and micronutrients.
Mm-hmm.
Macros are your NPK, your nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Micros are your iron, boron. Let's see, what else have we got here? Calcium, manganese, molybdenum. The
Yeah.
word we cannot say. Things like
I don't
those.
even have it written down, so I'm not going to
There's
try.
a ton of different things like that, ton of different micros, but those are your two main nutrient groups that you're going to be adding to an aquarium. And then we talked about dry ferts, which are the salts, the nutrient salts that you can mix, liquid fertilizers, which come in a bottle, like this guy, one of my favorite fertilizers.
Thrive.
Thrive. Yes.
Okay.
I just had this nearby and thought I would grab it in case we needed it. What other terms do you think we should, go over before we really dive in?
Molybdenum. Molybdenum. Demum. Molybdenum.
Molybdenum.
Mal,
Molybdenum.
molybdenum. I think that is it. Molybdenum. Yeah, that's a fun one. No, that was it. We went over the different types of fertilizer and also kind of what's in it. Kind of talked about why you would want it. And let's see. So this week, part 2, and hello, Nancy B in Tennessee. Welcome. And Joe Coffee.
Welcome. And yes.
Mullet Demon. That's probably what I said. I felt like that's what came out.
That is a micronutrient that Mitch nor I can ever say more than once.
Yeah.
But yeah,
After
and
a
then
lot of
so
practice.
today or tonight, getting into fertilization methods and different, systems that you can use for fertilizing a tank. And through our experiences and our reading and research, we've come across, I believe, 7 different methods. Some of them sort of bleed into each other.
Yeah.
Um, Now, all 7 of these are not methods that we have personally done. We will, talk about what we personally do and think works best for us, because really it comes up to how involved you want to be with your tank.
Yeah.
Um, but so we're going to briefly talk about those 7 methods and then get into detail on a couple different ones.
Yep. Select Pet is here. Hello, John. Glad to have you. Thanks for joining the chat.
Thanks for joining, John. Helpful as always.
All right, so I'll kick just by joining. I'll kick us off with the first one because it is one that I can say I've tried. And with these, like Tanner said, we've not done all of these. Some of them we just found interesting, and we're wondering if maybe some of you have done it. So heavy feeding and adequate filtration. So when you're feeding the foods, when you're feeding fish food, you are adding minerals to your water.
Mm-hmm.
And then when your fish waste, they're also adding some of these nutrients into the water, nutrients for plants. And it comes out as ammonia and then goes through the cycle, and you end up with some nitrate. The thing is this a good way to feed plants? I don't know a lot of people who have success with this. Those that I've heard have had success with this feed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that they have a lot of plants there. I think it's more so the plants are there to help with with keeping the water, good, clean.
Yeah, I think one of the main, this is honestly probably a method of fertilization that most people don't realize that they kind of do, because
Yeah,
that
I think
food
we
does
all
have
do
those.
it.
We all do it to some extent, but there is as you talked about, that method of intentionally overfeeding for your
Right.
plants. And this won't work in every setup. In my opinion, when you overfeed, you're going to be more prone to algae.
Yeah.
But and another issue and why I probably don't personally do this is, one, the algae, and also that food, it really depends on what you're feeding.
Yeah.
Are you feeding, one specific, type of food, say bloodworms? You feed a lot of bloodworms. Those aren't going to have a lot of nutrients.
No.
They're going to have nitrates or, ammonia that they'll produce, but they won't have, large quantities of phosphorus, potassium, and your micronutrients.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about NPK last time,
Mhm.
about your nitrogen, potassium, or nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. I do that every time. That P. You're not going to be feeding a lot of foods that are putting potassium in the water, and potassium is probably one of the bigger, one of the nutrients that people struggle with, and that's
Mhm.
probably why is not staying on some kind of dosing schedule, or not just dosing. There's other ways. We're going to get into that, but um, so with just food, unless you're throwing a banana in your aquarium, I don't know where you're going to get a lot of potassium from. Maybe there's a fish food that's high in potassium for that reason. Somebody should do that.
You will, if you're a type that feeds a variety of foods, that would be
Yeah.
just like a more comprehensive diet for your fish. It would be different varying nutrients and different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what John said.
Yeah, I accidentally clicked on it, but I was going to lead into it a little bit. So John says, one question that comes to mind is the use of biological filtration, like animal waste, like an organic compost. And that's true. That's what we're talking about right here. So
Mhm.
heavy feeding, adequate filtration, so that even though you're feeding a lot, the cycle is removing those harmful elements, so that you're not poisoning your fish. And that is going to lead to some fertilization just from the fish poop, right? So like, I remember when I started doing a planted tank for the first time, and I was like, wow, how am I going to vacuum around all these plants? Well, the answer is you don't, because you want that fish
Yep.
poop to work its way into the substrate and decompose. And, hopefully a snail comes by and, breaks it down a little bit more, and then it gets down in the substrate and helps feed your plants. So that is absolutely happening in all of our aquariums to an extent. But the heavy feeding, I don't know that's a method I'm willing to try. Like you said, whenever I've done heavy feeding, algae is always an issue, and especially for someone new who's got a tank that's not been running for very long, this method could definitely lead to some consequences. With too much food laying in there in the tank, it doesn't get eaten. It starts to decompose. It's going to release ammonia. And if your tank's not ready for a huge influx of ammonia, you could have a spike.
Right. And I definitely, if you're new, if you're just now starting to keep tanks, I probably wouldn't get into fertilization yet. Master keeping a tank without, adding, that just adds another layer of complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Master the nitrogen cycle first. Make sure because you don't need to fertilize to keep all, plants alive.
Yeah. So for me, I'm trying to think, because yes, if you're getting into it for the fish, and we all were, so I think what you said is absolutely the right thing to say. But if I had to do it over again, I would go plants in the beginning and just create a lush, beautiful tank, go through all the heartache of figuring out the fertilizer without having to deal with the aquatic inhabitants too, and then add them once I had the tank running better. But nobody does that. Nobody walks into a fish store and goes, "Ooh, I think I want that plant. Let me buy an aquarium." No, you see the
Right.
fish, you see it shine, and you want to take the fish home.
Yeah, looking back on it, it really would be a much better way to, really increase the health of your fish if you mastered or, got proficient at building the ecosystem. Build
Yeah.
the ecosystem before adding the inhabitants. That in a way, that's
Mhm.
kind of what you do when you cycle a tank,
Yeah.
but cycling a tank is just sort of the bare minimum to keeping
Right.
livestock. You want to
Yeah. And a
build,
lot of
I'm sorry,
no,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh,
No.
you want to build, something that the fish feel at home in and, allows them to exhibit their natural behavior.
Yeah, if you don't have plants, you're going to have fake plants, and that's okay. A lot of people like fake plants, and there's some really nice fake plants out there. I like being able to use the plant for the cycle, being able to use the
Mhm.
plant. I like the look of it, but it also helps out with the tank and getting it, where it's running a little bit better. So I see Ed brought up worm castings in the aquatic soil, and we're going to talk about stuff like that. That's definitely one of the methods that we're going to talk about. Um, Sorry, I shouldn't do that in the microphone. I bet that is horrible. Select Pet says, Mitch, plants are decorations and food. I guess I could put it up there. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Honestly, there's been times in the hobby that I am more interested in my plants, and the fish are really just, I'm trying not to kill them while I figure out plants. One point, my hobby was like that. So, and it was after this, because I shared with you all that my first few setups, my first few attempts at plants were disastrous. And that's because I wasn't fertilizing anything. And I thought that the food and the poop and everything would feed the plants, and it's just not enough. Not even for the 3 little bitty plants that I added.
So method number two, if you're ready to move on to that,
Yeah, let's do it. We spent too
um,
much time on that for sure.
yeah, we need to these first seven we need to try and skim over, and then let's spend some more time about what we do.
Yeah.
Um, Number two is DIY macronutrients, nitrate, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium to the water column. And that would be, mixing your own fertilizer, not using a liquid, using, those dry salts that we discussed, and really creating your own blend to tailor it to your tank.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
something Mitch and I have, neither of us have done. It's just something, we've came across in our reading, and maybe a method you may be interested in reading more into.
it's a method I've considered, because when you start looking at the cost of just buying those dry ferts, even the upfront cost isn't much, but buying all those dry ferts and doing it yourself and getting it dialed in and using the exact right
Mhm.
thing. There's a part of me that's like really nerdy, wants to do that, and then there's part of me that goes, "Yeah, I'd mess that up. That's probably a bad idea." So
I wish if I had enough time, I would like to do that. I just don't see
yeah,
myself maintaining that long term.
yeah. If I had one, and I do, if I had one tank that was my show tank, and it was the only thing I had to deal with, and I didn't have a family, maybe. But as it is, I don't have that much time to give my tanks. So I have no idea how I'm going to handle having multiple tanks one of these days if I get there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people who do this and do it well, and they have a lot of success out of it, and they save a lot of money. But that's not going to be a method that I'm going to use anytime soon. The third method, you're ready to move on, right?
Yes.
All right, the third method is also a DIY, and I thought this was very interesting. Interesting, and it says, and then I realized Tanner knows what this is. DIY phosphorus and iron to the substrate, and then you use ammonia and nitrogen and potassium in the water column. And so you're enriching a substrate. So you're using an enriched substrate. So you're I don't know which brands are which because I've always used gravel. So I don't know why I'm the one bringing this up. You should be the one talking about it.
Yeah, so this would be more so because these, the phosphorus and iron are nutrients you need in much lower concentrations. Phosphorus more so, but iron is one of your micronutrients. So
Mhm.
that would be adding something like a laterite, which contains high amounts of iron to your substrate, just to give them a continuous long-term iron source. Because I also think that you can easily
Oh, am I gone, or is Tanner gone? I'm showing. I'm still here. Oh, you know what? He told me. He sent me a message that his battery was low and he'll be back on with his phone. So I will remove him and let's do this. Oh, I don't have that. Hmm. Okay, so we'll just stay right here. Tanner is gone. Thank you, John. Thank you for confirming because I couldn't tell if it was me or him because it does the same thing when I drop. When I drop, it just looks like Tanner froze. Here he is. I will add him back to the stream. He's fixing. Um, Tanner, if you want to give me a thumbs up when you're ready, I'll add you. I think you can hear me. Joe Coffee reminds me of a joke. How do you hold a room full of fish nerds in suspense? Like that.
All right. Sorry about that. I had
Let
some
me do. There you go.
going back on the phone. This is not our night.
Hey, you know what? It took me forever just to get my keyboard to connect tonight. It's been one of those nights. So you dropped off. You were talking about adding laterite to the substrate, and then you still adding some fertilizer to the water because potassium. I guess potassium is not something you're going to get in the substrate.
Yeah, you can get that. There's your aqua soils, ADA, and the Tropica. There's so many different brands of aqua soil. They all have their own nutrient contents. But one thing
Mm.
with those is they can tend to deplete faster.
Yeah.
And once they're the nutrients are gone, they're gone. So one thing you can do, like organic potting soil, that's got a good bit of phosphorus in it. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can get that. I'm sorry, not phosphorus, potassium. Um,
You pulled a me.
in the substrate, and then add your really, your more needed nutrients, your NPK, or really your NP in this circumstance, to the water column through liquid or dry fertilizer.
Yeah, before you dropped off, we didn't grab this, but John said people used to add a nail for iron, and I've heard some of that. I've heard people talk about some of those old time remedies before they had all this stuff available at the store. Ed's talking about adding red clay for iron. There's plenty of things you can add. I remember at one point when I was getting the 75, I considered buying some sort of enriched substrate. And the more I read about it, the more worried I was that I'd get the wrong thing. And I started thinking about mixing it, and just all of that became a little overwhelming. And then when I started looking at the cost of putting all that in a 75 gallon, I very quickly decided to go back to gravel. and sand. But when I do those 20 longs, I'm probably going to try different things. And I think I want to try one of those substrates or a mixture. I like the way you and Sean have done it. I know I've seen you do it and I've seen him do it, where you do a mixture of things just to kind of get some of the benefits of all of them. And I think that's great.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really like to do, is just have my base substrate be, like you said, a mixture, because it adds different grain sizes. In nature, plants aren't growing in a homogeneous soil. There's all sorts of different things, and it really just builds the care. It gives different grain sizes for different root size, different types of roots to grab and take hold. And in my opinion, it's one of the better ways to do it. Let's see.
I see John asked, organic potting soil versus organic topsoil. Do you have a preference, Tanner?
I would say no. I'll let you know what I have used. I've used the Miracle Grow organic potting soil or garden soil. I've used the one that I had really good success with, but it's a bit more expensive, is the Fox Farms Ocean Blend. It doesn't have, it has more nutrients, and it's, I just had for whatever reason, I had real good success with it. It's got a lot of different organics in it, a lot of different, it's just got really good soil mixture. So I wouldn't say that I have a preference, as long as it's organic and, it's not going to leach anything bad in the water. You're gonna be fine either way.
Yeah, this is the first time I've done anything with some sort of soil, and that was in the micro pond. I planted a lily, and the person who gave me the lily told me to make sure I put it in a pot of topsoil, and it told me how to put it in there, and then put gravel on top to keep it from floating up, or potting soil. I think it was potting soil, and I ended up with the wrong thing. So I guess I ended up with topsoil, and I was looking at all this stuff, and I was like, I got to get this one. I got to get this. And I got the wrong one. And so I messaged him, and he's like, oh, you're fine. You just use it. It might float up a little bit. So make sure you weigh it down. And I wanted to say hello, Darlene. Darlene made it. I know the last few live streams, Darlene has been one of the first comments, disappointed that she missed. So welcome to the live stream. Glad you made it.
Yes, thanks for making it. Mitch, what do we got for number 4?
Number 4 is, this is another one that I know you've got more experience with. Actually, no, you know what? I've done this too. Your estimative index.
Yes. So the estimative index is one of the probably 3 most popular methods for dosing. It was popularized by Tom Barr in the 90s. I know that many of you have probably looked up his, forum, the Barr report. It is essentially, perfect. The Zen Ginger linked the Barr report estimative index forum thread. It is a fantastic read if you are interested in fertilization and nutrients. But the general concept is providing plants with all the nutrients they could possibly need. So you dose all of your nutrients in excess several times a week. And the concept is the plants will there will never be a nutrient deficiency. And if you're running CO2 with this method, which you pretty much have to, since there's not a nutrient deficiency, your limiting factor would then be lighting. And you really use that lighting to control algae. He came up with this system that proved that, or showed that one way to keep a tank without algae while dosing in the water column is the estimative index, just maximize plant growth. One of the cons of that is you're going to have super heavy maintenance. It's going to be really intensive.
And you have to stay on your schedule.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very schedule-oriented dosing method, and it requires a lot of dosing. some people may dose every day with this method a little bit, or they do, the 3 weeks, three times a week dosage. But one main,
because you spread out your fertilizers, you spread them out. You're not just putting everything in at once.
Right. So I guess some of the pros of this method, before we get into any, talk about some of the more of the drawbacks, would be you're going to have phenomenal plant growth, because you will not have any nutrient deficiency in your tank. One thing that can be a little, you won't get as much reds in some of your plants because you're going to have excess nitrates. So that's one of the pros, is you're going to have, a ton of awesome plant growth, and that plant mass will outcompete algae. So you're going to have minimal, doing this method effectively, you should have minimal algae. So those are some of the pros. And one other thing would be that your substrate does not need to be as nutrient dense, because you are dosing so much to the water column. Your plants are going to feed mostly from the column.
Yeah, I've done a form of this, but without the CO2 injection, without, some of those things that I feel like are probably key to making this work. This is a method that's going to produce a lot of plants very quickly. You're going to get your plants going to grow so quick that you're going to have trouble keeping them trimmed and keep everything planted, because it's just going to grow so fast. But it is very intensive, from what I understand.
Yeah,
I looked at doing this at one point, and I was like, nope, that's not for me.
I started with this method when I first got into high tech, and the main issues that I ran into is just the frequency of water changes. You're going to be doing at least a 50% water change once a week, maybe even more. And I was trimming almost all the plants every week. I would get at least once a week, get a 5-gallon bucket full of plants. And it was just way too much. If I would leave for a weekend, I would come back to everything growing out of the tank. And I was like, this needs to calm down.
Yeah. And you're doing the water changes because you're resetting each week. You're trying to get the levels back down because you're going to put it back in.
Since you're adding so much nutrients, the whole premise is you don't have to measure any of your nutrients, because you're putting in, everything so there won't be a plant deficiency. Well, you might be adding just enough nitrate, but you could be adding a lot more phosphorus or phosphate.
Which is going to lead to algae.
You do that weekly water change to make sure and bring everything back to a reset level.
Yeah.
Like your baseline.
I wanted to kind of back up a little bit to the previous method that we talked about, because Regina Phalange says, I have a love-hate relationship with aqua soil. It grows plants, breaks down fast, and keeps lots of corridoras. They make a mess, and my filters are constantly clogged with mud. That was another issue when I was looking at the planted substrates, is I realized that stuff breaks down. And in a couple of years or 3 years, I'd have to shovel all of it out and replace it. And I was like, I'm going gravel. I'm not messing with that.
Yeah. A lot of the aqua
root tabs all day.
Fluval stratum or any of the true aqua soils are just you can squish them in your hand, and they basically are a mud. But let's see. So let's talk about what you would want to target with this method as far as nutrient levels. Okay. So your nitrate you'd want it to be anywhere between 20 to 30 milligrams per liter. Potassium around 30 milligrams per liter, 25 to 30. And all of these values are ones that were, formulated and came up with by Tom Barr. If you'll read that thread that Zen Ginger linked, he goes extremely in depth and has done a ton of research on this method. Phosphate, you're only going to want 3 milligrams per liter, magnesium around 10, and iron 0.5. So that just, goes to show the difference between the nitrate and the iron is just that it shows micro versus macro, or micro macronutrient. But those are sort of the typical values, and you'll find more information on that forum. I would recommend reading as much of it as you can, because it's really a great insight into fertilizing a tank and keeping plants.
I see Craig's Catfish Cave is in the chat. Welcome.
Welcome.
Did you have anything else on that method?
No, I think we could move on to.
Yeah, we're running lean on the time. We are beyond the halfway point though. Lean dosing, aka the ADA method. And this is another method that I know you're familiar with. You were telling me about it all the way back last April, and I was like, I have never heard of this. What kind of weird magic are you doing with your tank?
Yeah, so lean dosing is probably, I sort of do a hybrid method in my tanks. I don't necessarily stick to estimated index or lean dosing, but if I had to say, I do more lean dosing, and that was popularized by ADA and Takashi Amano, but the whole premise is keeping a majority of your nutrients in the substrate. So you're going to use just a super highly nutrient dense substrate, like an aqua soil, a dirted tank, something like that with a high nutrient content. You're going to be adding root tabs to make sure that nutrient content in the substrate is as high as possible. And what that does is sort of caps off those nutrients from the water column. And it doesn't give algae an opportunity to grow. Now, with the lean dosing method, you're going to be adding liquid ferts as well, or something to the water column, your dry ferts. But it's going to be much, much less than the estimated index. And that's sort of how I run my tanks. And Zen Ginger's linked the nutrient dosing approach from the ADA, which thank you for doing that. Read that. That's got a lot more information than we can give in this time. But that's sort of the lean dosing method in a nutshell. Let's see. So let's talk about some of the advantages real quick. You're going to have less maintenance to maintain water parameters. You're not going to have to do those weekly, water changes at a high volume. But that also means you're going to have less growth. Your plants aren't going to have as much access to nutrients as an estimated index, so it's going to grow slower, but that also results in less maintenance. That's why Mitch and I have said, fertilization really depends on what you want, to achieve in your tank and the amount of effort you want to put into it.
Yeah, this method's something that less plants, right? Like you don't want a ton of plants when you use this method.
Right. It would be, more so in a heavily hardscape tank with minimal, not minimal plants, but you're not going to have a massive amount of plant mass and be successful with this method.
Yeah. All right. Another method would be those liquid complete programs. We talked about that a little bit last week. CChem has one. The dog's starting to play over here. CChem has one where their Flourish is not a complete fertilizer. It doesn't have everything you need, and you're going to have to figure out what you need and then add bottles to get. I gotta go get the dog. You got to add bottles in order to get everything that you need, because you're going to end up with like 20 bottles for some people not, but
definitely looks like they're talking about rabbit droppings for the
I was laughing earlier at the chat. Someone brought up the fact that rabbit droppings are very good at keeping a garden going, and maybe we should try it in the aquarium. I have a feeling that's ammonia ridden.
Yeah,
Not a good root tab.
I would. Now I'm just imagining someone using them as root tabs.
So we want to be very clear. We are not promoting the use of rabbit pellets in your substrate.
Root tabs, dude. You know, maybe no, don't try it out. I would not try.
Red laser, no extra processing, already in pellet form. Yep. So yeah, don't try that. CChem. There was a time where I was thinking about just adding to my CChem collection in order to, because I knew I needed more potassium at least. And so I was looking at that. While looking at that, I started looking at some of the complete all-in-one fertilizers, and this is the 7th one. This is the last one. We talked about it a lot last week, so we won't have to spend a lot of time on it this week. But that's when I came across the all-in-one fertilizers, and I was like, okay, I can either spend about 10, depending on the size you get, $10, $15 per bottle and get trace, because you need trace elements. They're not in Flourish. Get potassium, because I know my water, I deal with potassium issues still. I can get those two. That's $30, and I'm buying Flourish, so I'm actually talking closer to 40 or more. Or I can buy a $20 all-in-one, and hopefully that handles it. Now, for most people, especially just starting off, an all-in-one is your best bet. It's going to be the easiest way to get into it. It's going to be fairly idiot proof, because everything's just in one bottle. You're just dosing all at one time. You're not spreading things out. You're not keeping a calendar. You're not measuring anything out. Well, I guess some of them you do have to measure, but almost everybody's got like a pump top now. You still have to measure every now and then to calibrate it and know how much you're putting in, but it's a lot easier. So for most, that would be the way that I recommend. We've talked about the various brands. You were showing Thrive. I use Aquarium Co-op's Easy Green, and I like it. I feel like, and they put a lot, they say there's a lot of potassium in there, and I've not checked the numbers. I think they're on the label, but I've not checked the numbers. Actually, that's probably a good idea, is to check it to some of these other methods. To see how much is in there, but I definitely need more, because Java Fern just isn't working for me.
He's got the Java Fern killing water, but yeah, those definitely the all-in-ones. And then at the same time, you have to think these companies that sell 15 different nutrient bottles in their line, they're there to make money. So you can buy few or as many as you would like.
Yeah. One thing, Vibes Aquatics is here, and I don't think we said hello earlier. I know they've been here for a little while, but they not the keyboard. I see Vibes is back, so I wanted to say hi. Should have done it before. I also wanted to say that with one of the things with the multi-bottle programs, is there's a lot of kind of in the industry, there's this knowledge that you can't mix certain minerals in your fertilizer. You can't have them together. And love him or hate him, I know that Aquarium Co-op, Corey really pushed to have his fertilizer be an all-in-one, and to actually have, not to have to do 2 different bottles as much as possible. Iron's the one thing that they have to put separate, but he really stood on, no, I've got to have these all together. It was my first all-in-one. The way I understand the story now, everybody's got an all-in-one. I don't know that he, paved the road for that, but it sounded like when I was using Flourish years ago, it sounded like they couldn't put them together, but now for whatever reason they can. And so you can get the all-in-one.
Let's see here. Just checking up on the chat real quick.
Yeah, John agrees. Java Fern is a struggle. Maybe I need a bottle of some Nashville water next time I'm down there for Java Fern growth.
Looks like Nancy B also struggles with Java Fern.
It's a Tennessee thing.
That's something that's kind of interesting, because you look up, you Google easiest aquarium plants. 9 times out of
list
website in the top 3 is going to list Java Fern.
Mm-hmm.
So that just goes to show that plants plants are going to react differently to all, your water. So try different plants. If one doesn't work for you, I guarantee you there's a plant you can grow in your tank.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When I got into plants, I got a bunch of different plants and I just put them all in my tank, and those that died, I was done with. The strange thing about Java fern was it didn't die. It just didn't thrive. I mean, it will grow. It'll get bigger even. It'll produce, sometimes it'll even produce, the little spores and grow more plants, but it won't thrive. I never could get that really nice, large plant that I wanted out of it. And that's what's always been disappointing for me. I had in mind this easy plant was just going to become this big bush in my tank, and it never happened. And it's funny because I threw it in a bucket because I was done with it, and I took it to the club and gave it away. And Ed pulled the first ticket and took it, and he said it looked great. I was like, well, it didn't when I put it in there.
Java fern can be a weird one. I will say CO2 has made a massive, as far as getting the massive Java ferns, you'll see that made the biggest difference, because they do typically grow out of water for the most of, a good seat part of the year.
Yeah. Let's look. Basement Aquatic says, I have a good amount of evaporation, about 2 inches a week in the 55, little less than the others. I top off midweek, water change on the weekend. I usually liquid dose full cap after water change and quarter cap with top off. Yeah, that's a good plan. I've tried something different recently, and I'm only a couple of weeks into this, so I don't know that I've actually seen the benefits just yet. That dog, I tell you, he's like, it's 9:30. It's my time. But I've been dosing a couple of pumps of Easy Green every day instead of doing my twice a week large dose. And I'm trying to see if that helps out with some of the, I'm seeing some nutrient deficiencies, and I'm actually not sure what they are. My Vallisneria keeps growing like this, not curly, but it's just kind of squiggly look. I need to post a picture. If I had that community tab, YouTube, I could post a picture and have people talk with me about it. But yeah, it's frustrating. I don't know why my valve started doing that, but I'm trying to see if I can keep nutrients in the tank, which I know the valve is, I think the valve's mostly, it's got a lot of roots to be pulling from the water column, but I know if you dose, the algae sides, I know it impacts valve. So I bet it does pull a lot from the water.
Well, valve, it's just when it becomes in contact with the leaves of the valve.
Okay.
Through that, basically the cell wall is pretty easy. And I don't know how to explain it in detail, but in my mind, this is how I rationalize it. Simpler structured plants like your mosses, just really like simple leaves, it's not thick and complex like a Java fern. Those simpler plants just are a lot more sensitive to any irritants like hydrogen peroxide, Excel, anything like that.
Well, I was trying to see if I could bring up the picture real quick, but I'll try to remind myself to have a picture for next week so we can kind of look at it and talk about it, because we will be talking about plant deficiencies next week. And so actually that works out. That's a perfect segue. See, I'm getting good at this.
Yeah, we're coming to, we're looking like something now.
Yeah, if I would just stop talking, it'd look like I know what I'm doing.
But do we have? I guess in this last couple of minutes, can we fit in how we fertilize our tanks?
Yeah, go ahead. I already talked about mine.
Mine,
go ahead.
Is similar to the ADA approach. I do a really nutrient dense substrate, and I'm going to glaze over it real quick. So if you have questions, we'll try and answer them. But
yeah, we'll hang out past the time.
High nutrient substrate as much as I can, using aqua soil, a mixture of potting soil, aqua soil, sand, and just a variety of different things. Some laterite, a lot of different ingredients to give comprehensive nutrients in the substrate to keep as much out of the water column. But the one thing that I do differently is that I dose more ferts than the ADA method. I sort of do a intermediary between I don't want the full like insane growth that the EI method does, but I have more plants than an ADA method would warrant.
Sustain, yeah.
So that's real quick, in a nutshell, sort of how I dose and set up my tanks.
Yeah, and I just use the shotgun approach. I just throw fertilizer in there in every means possible. No, I have root tabs because I keep a lot of crypts and Amazon swords in the 75, so I have root tabs for them.
Yeah.
Like the swords go through, I mean, they're root tabs every other week, seriously, and double what I put anywhere else in the tank. And I still have to trim leaves off. So they're just monsters. The crypts, they love the root tabs as well. And then I've got a lot of Nubius, a lot of Nana Petite, and a big one I think is Barteri. Nobody can tell me whether or not it is. That's what it looks like to me because it's got the little waviness to the leaves, like that.
Or Coffifolia.
It could be, but the leaves are big. I always call it the coffee Anubias. Does the coffee Anubias get that big?
It has some fairly broad leaves. I'm not good at determining types of Anubia.
Yeah, I've not come across anybody that seems to be willing to make a call on it. Everybody's like, I don't know. It's a nice Anubias though. But so I do fertilize the water column as well because of those plants as well as many others. There's a lot in there, a lot of different plants in there. And like I said, right now for the last few weeks, I've been doing a couple of pumps a day instead of doing, the 8 to 15 pumps once or twice a week. Select Pet says sounds like Barteri. That's what I understand.
One thing I also do that I think might be of note is that I do instead of like Mitch says, instead of one large dose of one time a week, I do a larger dose when I do after a water change, but I try to do smaller doses during the week to kind of keep instead of adding a ton of nutrients at once, it's a more steady stream.
It's kind of like the estimative index, but on a smaller scale, because instead of just putting it in over the week, which is what I was basically doing, with the all-in-one, but you're just always putting the same amount, but I'm putting the same amount each day. I'm hoping it does well. I got that from, I don't want to take credit for that. I got that from, in my research, I've watched a lot of people on YouTube and read a lot of documents online that were really difficult to read. But Bentley Pascal, who is probably live already, did a series of videos on fertilizer, and it may have been a live stream that I caught, because sometimes I jump in his live stream when we're done. Very knowledgeable individual on plants for sure, and other things as well. But it was something he said to do that he has done and found success with. So I thought I'd try it. Can't hurt.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely go to. Definitely knows more than plants about than us.
Yeah. Someone asked why I didn't have the community tab. So the community tab in the past was 4 channels of, actually it started off with like 10,000. You had to have 10,000 subscribers, and then it got bumped down to 1,000, and then it got bumped down to 500. And I think that's where it's been for the last while. So you have to have 500 subscribers to get the community tab, but YouTube is currently rolling out the community tab to newer channels. And so there are a lot of newer channels out there. I think I saw Kane in here was talking about how he has it now. And even he has a personal account that has 2 subscribers and no videos, and it has it. That does not make me mad whatsoever. But one of these days it'll show up, or we'll hit 500 and we'll get it a week after that. Select Pet mentioned the Wallstead method, and I kind of feel like that goes along with some of the other methods that we talked about with the substrate. You definitely can add your nutrients that way with a dirted tank, and I think dirted tanks a great idea. I'm just afraid of it.
The first tank I started was a Wallstad, and it was such a fun experience. really, cool way to keep a tank.
As Select Pet says, I forgot I have a community tab. Ugh, that hurts. So yeah, one of these days it'll be there and I'll get to have fun with it. I will have fun with it. I'm looking forward to having that thing, but we're not there yet. Thank you for checking out this live stream. Any last thoughts? We're 10 minutes over.
We got a bit excited. Thanks for joining us tonight. Leave some questions. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments on this video and Mitch will see them, or I might see them. I'll check out Mitch's channel for the comments.
I appreciate that. Thanks for checking out this live stream and hanging out with us. You all being in the chat, communicating with us, that's what makes this fun. I mean, me and Tanner could talk on a conference call anytime, but being able to do it with you all was a lot of fun. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you all making it out each and every week. And caring that we weren't here. I had people ask me about it and I thought that was very cool. So, a couple weeks ago, but anyway, thank you. And those of you on the replay, thank you very much. Really love that you're watching it. I like seeing that these live streams are viewed even after we do them. So that's very, very cool. If you've not already, you can subscribe to the channel and like this. That would be awesome. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your tanks and stay scruffy.